Hi, Bane Bears. Miss Cornelio here. Today, I am going to be doing our reading lesson together. And I wanted to start off by saying many of you guys are doing an awesome job at home with your reading assignment. I'm hoping that you're doing your stop and jots and all that great stuff. Today, boys and girls, so last week we were learning about fact and opinion, and we learned that a fact is something true that can be proven here or in China, right? anywhere in the world, this fact stands right. And then an opinion was your thinking, your feeling, or your belief, right? So today we're going to be looking at some informational text, and actually we're going to call these persuasive text, okay? And to persuade, boys and girls, means to convince someone, okay? Let me show you. Last week, boys and girls, we saw this, okay? And so this writing piece. So in this writing piece, remember how Mia had her opinion and Jack had his opinion. So what they were trying to do is Mia was trying to convince us that, hey, school is so hard, we can do screen time before homework. And Jack was trying to convince us, no, 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 no. We have to do homework first before screen time. So this piece was a persuasive piece. Why? Because to persuade means to convince. It's trying to convince us of what the author is thinking, right? In this case, we have two different opinions that they're trying to convince us, okay? So what we're going to do, okay, we need to remember that as strong readers, boys and girls, we need to remember that as strong readers, it is important for you to be able to look at a writing piece and think about, is this a persuasive piece? So here is our anchor chart for this week, and you have it in your booklet. And we're going to learn about persuasive text. Okay, so these are the things that we're going to be doing today in our informational writing text. Okay, so the first thing that's important when you are reading a persuasive text, oh, sorry. Okay, so when you're reading a persuasive text, you have to go through these steps to help you understand what the author is trying to persuade you to do. So when we're looking at a persuasive text, we're going to look at the title, okay? Usually, boys and girls, a title gives us a clue about the topic or the issue that the author is trying to talk about, okay? So next, we're going to talk about what points are being made. What are the reasons? What are the examples? What are of the fact or the opinion that the author is trying to tell us? Like, what are the reasons the author gives us to try to convince us? Okay, so we're going to be talking about points. The author makes some points. Okay, and then after that, we're going to think, what does the author want me to do or think? What is the author trying to convince me to do or to think? Okay, and you have to make a decision on your own. Was I convinced? Yes, the author convinced me, or no, the author did not convince me. Okay, so for example, I can tell you, like for example, I can write my story about how Snoopy, my dog, is the best dog ever, right? And so I'm going to try to convince you as to why Snoopy, my dog, is the best dog ever. So I might tell you, well, he listens to me every time I talk to him. I might give you another point and say, he is always protecting my family. I might give you another point or another reason and say, Snoopy likes to snuggle with us at night. Um, and so those are called points. Those are called reasons why I think Snoopy is the best dog ever. But we're going to be looking at text, and we're going to be looking at the title. We're going to be looking at the points, and we're going to think, did the author convince me? Yes. Why? Or, no, I'm not too convinced. And why not? Okay, so this is going to be our anchor chart. If you forget the steps that we're going to be doing, make sure you go back and look at our anchor chart. Okay, so here is the writing piece that we are going to start with. And you have this in your booklet. Okay, so let me get a pencil here. Okay, so my anchor chart said that the first thing that we need to look at is look at the titles and see if we have clues about what this is going to be about. Okay, so our title says respect for the earth. Nature is the home of many plants and animals. Here are some ways to respect them. So respect for the earth. So this title, I think, is going to show us different ways. This is my thinking. Ways to respect our earth. Okay. So it's going to, this is my thinking. This title gives me a clue about what this piece is going to be about. Now, the next thing on our anchor chart is what points are being made. What are the facts? What are the reasons that the author is giving to teach us about or convince us to respect the earth? Okay, so let's go ahead and read. Take only pictures. Let me focus this a little bit. Okay. It says, you see a tree with cool bumping bark. Should you peel off a piece to take it with you? No way. It took that tree a long time to grow that bark. Everything you see in the woods belongs there. If you see something cool, take a picture of it. Then you can look at it again and again. So this is the first point that the author makes. The first point that the author makes pretty much. So right here, we read, stop, think, and jot, or write, right? So what the author is saying here, that don't take things out of nature. Instead, take a picture of it and take it with you. But don't take any part of nature home with you. So right here for my stop and jot, I am going to put point 1, which is the first point that the author is making. He says to take only pictures, sorry, of nature. Don't take nature home. Okay? So now I read, stop, think, and write, or jot. Okay, this is the first point. Now, the second point that the author is making of ways to respect the earth is leave only footmarks. Okay, so let's read this. You're done eating a granola bar. Should you throw the wrapper on the ground? That's not a good idea. An animal could eat that wrapper and get sick. If you bring something into the woods, bring it back and out with you. You should never leave. You should leave only your footprints behind. We're going to stop. Read, stop, think, and jot. So what this is telling me here, that if you take things into nature, make sure you bring your trash out. Do not leave any trash behind. The only thing you should be leaving behind are your footprints. So I'm going to put Never leave trash in nature. Okay, so that's what I think this is talking about. Then the third point that the author's making of ways to respect the earth, or why we should respect the earth, is we need to let the animals be. You spot some raccoons in a tree. They look so soft. Should you pet them? No. Wild animals are not pets. You can scare them and they could hurt you. Don't share your snacks with them either. They could get sick. Animals can find their own food. So for this part, it's talking about leaving the animals alone. So we read it. Now we're stopping, we're thinking, and we're jotting. This pretty much is saying leave the animals alone and don't feed them, right? So that I'm going to jot that down. Notice that I am writing it using my paraphrasing, right? Using my own words and my own thinking. And then the last point that the author is making is follow the trail. You're walking on a trail through the woods. It would be fun to explore off the trail. Should you? No. The trail is the safest path through the woods. Being respectful of nature helps keep it beautiful. It helps keep you safe too. Okay, we read it. Now we're stopping, we're thinking, and we're jotting for this part. Now make sure that if you have this in your book, you can go ahead and be doing this with me while I do the lesson. Now this point is talking about, just follow the trail. Do not leave the trail that you are on, okay? So this one is saying, maybe follow the trail because you might get lost, okay? So now we did our strategy on our writing. Now, let's go ahead and fill in our chart, okay? Now here, we're gonna go back and write our thinking here. We did our stop and jots just so that we remember what the points were. But now this title makes me think, okay? And I had already written my thinking up here. This title, Respect for the Earth, makes me think that the article will be about ways to respect our earth. Oh. Capital letter, that the article will be about ways to respect our earth, period, at the end. Remember, that's a complete sentence. Now, one point that the author makes, now remember, the author made 1, 2, 3, 4 points. You're going to pick 1 point to write about here, 1 point to write about here, okay? So I'm going to pick the first one. One point that the author makes is people should only take pictures of nature they should not take nature home. Pretty much what I'm doing, I'm writing my stop and jot here in a complete sentence, okay? Another one that I am going to write about, another point that I want to write about is this one, because this one I think it's important, right? A lot of times we go like the nature to the beach, or we go to a park, and there's nature everywhere, right, guys? So we want to make sure that we always take our trash with us. Do not leave trash behind, right? So another point the author makes is when you go into nature, make sure you pick up and take your trash with you, period. Okay, so that's another point that the author makes. Of course, the author made 1, 2, 3, 4 different points, but I just want you to write about 2 of the points. Now, the last part of this graphic organizer says, I think the author is trying to persuade the reader to, remember, the word persuade means to convince. What is the author trying to convince me about? Okay, so I'm going to put, I think the author wants, now I'm not going to say convince. I want to use our new word, persuade. I think the author wants to persuade readers to take care of the earth and to respect it, period. Okay, so here we go. You're going to stop and think about, what does the title make you think? You're going to stop and think about 2 points the author's making, and you're going to tell me, what is the author trying to convince you as the reader to do? In this case, I think the author wants to persuade readers to take care of the earth and to respect it. Okay, so notice what I did. What I did in my lesson today, boys and girls, you're going to do in your lesson as well. Okay, but you are going to be doing this one. Don't be afraid to try new things. You're going to stop and think about your title. You can read about the author, and there's 3 points that you can stop and think about and jot. Okay, when you do that, boys and girls, you're going to do the same thing as I did. What does the title make you think? What is one point that the author makes? What's another point that the author makes? And what do you think the author is trying to persuade you to do? Okay, these are the pages that you are going to be turning into me. Okay, I want to see your stop and jots here, and I also want to see this page. This is the page that you're going to turn into me. Okay, here, this is your stop and jots, and you can choose to take a picture of this page and send it to me so I can see your thinking as you were reading this piece. But this is a page that I am going to be grading this week. So make sure, boys and girls, make sure that you complete the graphic organizer for this one. Okay? Alrighty, guys, happy reading and happy thinking. Remember to read every day. This is not the only reading you have to do. You have books. Make sure you're going into Scholastic Book Pro, and make sure you are able to read all those fun books that you are enjoying at home. Okay? Alrighty, guys. See you in our writing lesson. Bye-bye.